The Kandao Qoocam is here. In this Qoocam hands-on report and tutorial, I'll tell you why the Qoocam is awesome, including its key features and benefits. Then I'll show you an unboxing, plus a tutorial, and I'll answer your questions about it. You know about 360 cameras, you know how great they can be. You can shoot everything around you so you don't have to aim. And because it shoots everything around you and it has stabilization, you can make a 360 camera look like an invisible flying camera. It's almost like having a cameraman following you around. That's why they're so awesome. But 360 cameras can be unfamiliar to a lot of people. They require a totally different mindset when you're shooting. Plus, you have to stitch the photos and videos, and for some cameras, they can take a really long time, which is why I was very excited about this new format called VR180. It mixes the best benefits of both 360 and conventional non-360 photos and videos. Let me explain. So with VR180 or 3D180, you're shooting only 180 mode, but it's in 3D. Very little stitching required. You can stitch it very quickly, and for some cameras, you don't even need to stitch it at all. Secondly, the way you shoot with it is very similar to the way you shoot with a regular, like a smartphone or ordinary camera. So you don't have to change the way you think. Another benefit is that for professionals, you don't show the entire 360 view. So you could have the director, the cameraman, you have lighting equipment all on one side, out of the field of view. So you can shoot it with it almost like the same way as you shoot with a regular camera. That's why it's such an exciting medium. Now, I've shot with a couple of VR180 cameras, the Lucid Cam and the Lenovo Mirage. But the one thing that the VR180 lacks is the phenomenal stabilization that you have with 360. And of course, there are some situations where you do want to have like a totally immersive view. Many times I found myself having to choose, do I shoot with a VR180 today or with a 360? And so that's why I'm so excited about the Qoocam, because it can convert from a 360 camera to a 3D 180 camera. So you get the best of both worlds. Here is the Qoocam. It feels very solid. It's it feels like it's really well made. It's not like cheap plastic or anything. It feels like it might be metal. I'm not sure. And there's this cover here that feels very sleek and smooth with a beautiful matte finish. Here it is. This lens cover is genius because not only does it cover the lenses, but it also works as a stand. And it's the perfect stand for the Qoocam because turn the Qoocam with the 3D 180 camera, it's kind of like a cantilever design. So if you just put a regular, like a small base there, it's gonna fall over. But with this, it can support it exactly the way it needs to, like that. And so and it can also work even as a stand for either mode, like including the 360 mode. That's why it's such a thoughtful design. Here's how to use the Qoocam. It's pretty simple. First of all, make sure you put an SD card. Here's the slot. It's a little bit hard to open if you have short fingernails, so what I do is I actually use the micro SD card to help me open it. So to turn it on, just hold down the power button. So it's over here. So when it's straight like this, it's in 360 mode. So take a photo, just press the shutter over here. So that's the shutter, and then to take a video, you hold down the shutter. So now it starts recording, and then here you press it again to stop. Now to turn it to 3D 180 mode, you just have to rotate it. So I find it best to hold it by the edges instead of this side, so that to avoid touching the lenses. So you hold the edges here, and then I turn it toward the shutter. So if the shutter is here on this side, then it means you're supposed to turn it over here. You can't turn it the other way. It only turns in one direction. So now that it's turned that way, then it's in 3D 180 mode. So again, to take a photo, you press the shutter. If you want to take a video, you hold down the shutter for a couple seconds. So now it's recording a video. And then to stop, you press it again. Now let's learn how to connect it to the app. So there's an app for both iOS and Android. Here I'm using the Android version. So to connect wirelessly, press the power button, because this is also the Wi-Fi button. So when you press the power button, you'll notice the Wi-Fi signals blinking. So from the app, you tap on the camera icon. Now you'll wait a couple seconds, then you'll see the Qoocam show up there. Once it shows up there, you tap on it, and it's going to tell you it's going to fail actually. So so when it says fail, that's okay. Just click on OK. Now you'll notice now this time there's a check mark. So when there's a check mark, that means they're already connected. Then you can tap it on it again, and this time you'll be able to see the live preview. So here it is. This is an early version of the app, so it has very few controls. With video, basically you can change the resolution from 4K 30 FPS to 60 FPS to 120 FPS. So the 60 FPS, it says here is 1920 by 1920. So but if you stitch it, it will become 4K. Now the 120 FPS is in 2K mode, 1920 by 960. For iOS, you'll see there's one more option called time lapse, where you can select the interval. Now in the future, they will have more options, such as the ability to select raw mode. But for now, if you want to take a photo, just tap the shutter. If you want to see what you shot, you tap on this gallery icon over here. So it's going to bring you to the album screen. Now if you tap here, you'll see that you can select from camera album, app album, and edited album. Camera album shows you what are the photos and videos that are in the camera itself. App album means the photos and videos that have been transferred from the camera to the app. And edited album shows you the photos and videos that have been, refocused, or if you've done any kind of editing. So now, if you want to transfer, just the faster way is to select multiple photos and videos by tapping on this icon here. Then you can tap, let's say, this 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do that. Then here, tap on download. So you'll notice that it's pretty fast at downloading. So in video mode, you can tap on edit, and you can do keyframes. So for example, here you could switch from this view, hold down your finger, and tap the button, hold down your finger, tap key point, and then there's a keyframe there. Move it to the next, drag down the timeline to the next point where you want to put the keyframe. So let's say over there, hold down your finger over there again, tap on key point. Now there's a keyframe over there, and so now the video is going to move from here up to the other point. So the early version of the app doesn't have a lot of capabilities yet, but you can do refocusing. So for example, here's a 3D 180 photo. You can tap on edit, and then you can tap on refocus. So right now when you tap edit, it's going to create a depth map. So there's already a depth map right there. So when you First of all, you can crop it to make it the size that you want, or the aspect ratio that you want. So tap on done. Now you can tap on refocus. So let's say you want to make the focus on the face. Tap on that, then you'll notice the background became blurry, or you want to focus on the background, you can do that. You can also adjust the strength of the blurring effect. Of course, you don't want to overdo it, or else it will look fake. So when you're done, just tap done, and that's it. You tap on save, and it will create the refocused version. So you could save the refocused version to your local gallery or camera roll. So now you can go back to the app album. So the desktop app has several capabilities. Besides refocusing, it can also export a depth map, and it will allow you to post photo or video in various formats, like side by side or top bottom, or you can also change it from 3D to mono, or you could change the resolution or the bitrate. So I invited you guys to ask some questions. You came back with a lot of very good questions. So here are the answers. So first, what's the resolution per eye? It depends on what's the frame rate. At 30 FPS, the resolution is 1920 by 1920 unstitched per eye. At 60 FPS, it's 960 by 1920. It gets stitched as 1920 by 1920, but the unstitched version is 960 by 1920. And at 120 FPS, it's 960 by 960 per eye. Next, Bill asked, how is it possible not to see the hand holding the camera in the VR 180 usage? Use a selfie stick that can bend or has a ball head. Like this one can bend, so like at this angle. Here, let's say it's in 180 mode. I can bend the selfie stick that way, and my fingers or my hands won't show up in the video. Richard Stone asked, I bought one for 60 FPS 4K and refocused depth map. And Rodrigo also asked a similar question, also about 6 DOF and depth map. So first of all, about 60 FPS 4K, it is there. Qoocam or Kandao claims that it is 4K, but the unstitched version is 1920 by 1920, so it's not really 4K, even though the stitched version is 4K. Now, as for the depth map, Richard and Rodrigo are asking, can you generate the depth map separately? Yes, you can with the Qoocam Studio. So on the app you cannot, but on the Qoocam Studio you can export a depth map, and you could make it side by side. You can make it top bottom. You could change the projection from different using and you can change it from top bottom or side by side equirectangular format. Now Rodrigo is also asking if refocus works in 360. Answer is no, because refocus depends on a depth map, and the depth map only can be generated from 3D 180 mode. Rodrigo asks, what advantages does having a third lens bring to the spherical media? Well, in this case, having 3 lenses, it allows it to switch from 360 mode to 3D 180 mode. So it gives you that versatility to choose whichever mode is best for you. Next, Francois asked, does the Kandao Qoocam conform to the Google VR 180 standard? And right now, the files that I have, it doesn't, but they said that they're committed to complying with that standard and enabling compatibility with that in the future. Next, Francois asked also about the sync in 3D 180. He's concerned about the left eye and the right eye being in sync, and the answer is yes, they are in sync. And I tested it by recording a 3D 180 video. Then I popped a flash, and the flash duration is, you know, maybe like 1/1000 or even shorter than that. But in both cases, the left but in every case that I popped the flash, the left eye and the right eye showed the same flash image. So it shows that they are pretty much gen locked. Okay, so Sharik Dirksen asked, is there an option that for importing sound from somewhere else? The Qoocam Studio doesn't have an option for that, but you can mix it. You can add external sound on your own video editor. Next, Ed Davis asked, is the 3D VR stabilized? Next, Ed Davis asked, is the 3D 180 mode stabilized? And the answer is partially. There's an option to turn on what they call anti-shake stabilization. So it's not full stabilization, but it neutralizes some of the movement. If you want a totally level horizon and you're moving, then you really need a gimbal for that. Scott asked, when will raw DNG be made available? I don't know yet. They haven't told me. So Bas Kirchhoff asked, please try low light conditions. And yeah, I tried them out, both photo and video, and I was surprised that the photo quality in low light is actually decent, but it does take them at super slow shutter speeds. So if you're moving, then there could be blur. As for video, there's noticeable noise, but there's actually also a lot of detail. So I'd say it's average or above average for low light performance. Bass also asked if how's the speed for transferring photos and videos. I think they're pretty good. It's not super slow, nor is it super fast. It's just about average. Scott Puller had several questions. How complicated is the Facebook or YouTube live broadcasting? I can't tell because the app doesn't have that yet. Will the camera record while connected to a USB charging bank? According to Kandao, yes, but when I tried it, I noticed that the Wi-Fi or the wireless signal couldn't be activated. So I guess the answer is partially. And what's the actual battery life? I haven't exhausted the battery, so I don't know yet. I haven't done a battery rundown test. Does the stabilization work anything like Rilo Insta360 ONE? Yes, the stabilization works really well in 360 mode. In full stabilization mode, it seemed really stable. I was very impressed. Will there be a Lightroom plugin to add metadata, presumably? According to Kandao, yes, they plan to add a tool like that. Not necessarily for Lightroom, but just in general for all editors. Now, please show us how the files work within the Kandao app for both iOS and Android. And is there a desktop app? Yes, there's a desktop app, and you saw my tutorial for the app. Now, how bad is the low light noise? This is like a earlier question, so it's actually pretty good for photos. How good are the lenses? I think they're pretty sharp, although the photo resolution is limited to 4320 by 2160. Now, Rick asked, can you do reframe 3D with it? Not apparently. With the app doesn't allow it. The keyframing works only in 360 mode. How affordable will it be upon release? Theo asked, and also Lennon asked a similar question. So it's going to be $3.99 on Amazon. And Stefan asked, how does the 180 3D VR compare to the Mirage? So for photos, I think the Mirage looks more detailed, and for videos, they seem to be almost the same. I haven't compared them side by side yet, but I'm gonna do that in an upcoming comparison. Trevor asked, let's see, he's going on vacation to Australia, and he wants to decide whether to get this or the Insta360 I think it's kind of like a trade-off right now. Insta360 has a better app for mobile, and I would say desktop as well. It's like easier, more intuitive. But in terms of like actual versatility, well, you know, this one offers 360 that's stabilized, and it also offers you know, VR 180 mode. Now I have some sample videos in VR 180. If you like it and you also like 360, then I think it's a logical choice to choose the Qoocam. But if you try VR 180 and don't really care for it, then you know Insta360 might be a better camera for you. Similarly, if your emphasis is photo, I would say the photo quality of the Insta360 is significantly better because it's much higher resolution. And that's it. Those were all your questions. So I'll have my full review for you real soon. So I'll see you in 360.